Bartley Gorman, one of the most talked about fighters ever amongst gypsies. He claimed to be king of the gypsies for 20 some years. In fact, many believe he was the greatest gypsy bare knuckle fighter ever. Bringing to you today, I've got this great fight with Mark the Ripper Ripley. Yes, I have a key eyewitness that was at the fight, and I'm going to bring it all to you right here. But before we proceed with this wonderful story, bringing them both back to life, please press the subscribe button. Just press it and you go on if you're already a member of YouTube. If you're not, just get one of the kids or grandkids, somebody with the knowledge, if you don't have it, which I don't, please press it. Become a member of YouTube, click the subscribe button, and remember, press the bell and you'll get all future content. But anyway, sit back, welcome to Gypsy TV, and let me take you through this wonderful story of the Bartley Gorman, Mark Ripley fight. So this fight that happened in the 60s, mid-late 60s, I'm led to believe I know exactly where it was, because I have an eyewitness to the fight, somebody that was there, and this is where the story gets interesting. It was in a place called Dartford, so for you it's Kent, yeah, but it's very close to London, to the city, so it's right by the Thames estuary, goes into the channel, right, so you just go over the Dartford cross, and it used to be under the bridge on the left. We're sitting about 10 miles 12 miles maybe from the city centre of London. Yeah, so let's focus on both fighters. Let's bring in Bartley Gorman, yeah. So King of the Gypsies, this wonderful warrior, reigned supreme for some 20 years, yeah, and had fights everywhere from car parks, derelict warehouses, gypsy sites, gypsy horse fairs, even down a mine shaft, quarries, you name it. And he actually even challenged David Price, the British heavyweight champion, to a fight. And had he beat him through a mutual connection, Paddy Monaghan, he would have actually even had an opportunity. It's led to believe that he would have fought the greatest, Muhammad Ali, but this fearsome fighting man, and by his own admissions, had his toughest fight against the other fighter we're going to bring into focus, Mark Ripley. We know less about Mark Ripley, but let's have a look at Mark Ripley to what we know. Yeah, so let's bring Mark Ripley into focus. We know less about Mark because of his premature end, but I do know some about him, and a fearsome fighting man. And on one occasion, he had collected some money for a London Irish crook, not a travelling Irish fella, Danny the Thief, a character I've met, the right character, Danny the Thief, and he'd hired Mark his muscle once to collect some money for him, and Mark was set upon the gang with iron bars, ammonia, acid, and they really left Mark in some horrendous beating, and possibly even they thought he'd be dead, but within 24 hours he was back in the pubs again, drinking. He was a tough man, you know. He had to endure this is an horrendous beating, but he was back on his feet, going about his business. Legendary fighter Jimmy Stockings, once saw him fight. They were good mates, him and Jimmy, and in a pub called the Rose and Crown in Wandsworth in London, Mark Ripley had struck a man, and Jim said he had hit him. I mean, he coming from a man who's threw thousands of punches himself. He said he'd struck him, and the bloke done a sort of somersault round and down. He said the most sort of peculiar, almost comical landing to a unconscious knockout. And in fact, Jim went to prison for the incident. Nicky Dighton and Jimmy Stockings got picked up for it, and they were offered to tell who done it or go to prison. And they said, well, we'll go to prison. So they actually done prison for Mark Ripley. They were that close as friends. But Jimmy said, well, when he, on one occasion, you know, he went to a gypsy site, he said, and he voiced his opinion, and he brought the place to a standstill. Yeah, fierce man, reputation. Some 20 travellers had taken one of his air coursing dogs once, and he went down there and said, if my dog's not back in 1 hour, there'll be some trouble to pay, and his dog was back. That was the sort of respect. He was a strong looking man. I met him as a little boy with my dad in a scrapyard in southwest London, Mitcham. Yeah, he blondie receding at the middle, blondie, strong looking man, and that much I know about Mark Ripley. So let's move on to the fight. And in the late, I think it's around the mid 1967, give or take. Yeah, so if you just go under the Dartford tunnel then, and the Dartford A2 turn off, yeah, heading for Kent, yeah, away from London, just on there, there's loads of travellers, gypsies, staying there. Now, I'm not sure why the fight started, but we know what happened. I believe now, doing some research on Mark's age and Bartley's age, I think Bartley was around a couple of years older, and these were both young men, I think it's rumoured that Bartley was in his early 20s and Mark was around the age of 20, yeah. And Bartley Gorman appears, yeah, and my eyewitness and Uncle Freddie Luke was there. He went to, not to go to watch the fight, he went there with his granddad as a teenage boy to remove another caravan. And as he got there, Bartley Gorman was in presence, and Mark Ripley's father shouts out, he's in bed in his caravan, his trailer, sleeping, and his father, Sam, supposedly with quite a broad accent, says, "Hey boy, come on, there's a man here to fight you." Bartley Gorman was there to fight him. So out they go for the fight. Beautifully physiqued Bartley Gorman comes out pounding Ripley, bang, 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 bang. And this continues for some 7, 8, 10 minutes. Bang, 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 clubbing, big hands. Have you seen pictures and images of Bartley Gorman? Tough looking man. He looks exactly what he was. Bang, bang. And amazingly, Ripley, he's not getting any punches back, but he's absorbing everything, yeah, and he ain't going anywhere. To everybody's amazement, you know, probably to Bartley's as well. And he's just not pounding Ripley, and Ripley hasn't got the skill and the technique of Gorman, yeah. Gorman's got this better technique, and he's just pounding him. And somehow or another, Mark starts finding some range, Ripley, and he then starts catching Gorman. Boom, 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 with rounded punches, bang, and straight punches, bang, 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 bang. And this brutal fight continues. And Gorman with the fast start, Ripley's now levelling it up some, and it is a brutal fight, just as Bartley Gorman said, the hardest man he'd ever met. People stand by, and my key witness, yeah, to the fight, Uncle Freddie Luke, he was amazing how the punishment that Mark was taking, but he just wasn't going anywhere. You know, with the brutal punches, Gorman giving bang, 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 bang. Anyway, with two men really beat up and giving it to each other, and we didn't know what the fight happened over, what it started over, and Bartley got into a clinch with Mark, and they looked at each other, and Bartley sort of semi-laughed and said, "Do you know what? The reason we're fighting is quite silly, isn't it? It really ain't much of a reason, is it?" And they both laughed at each other, embraced, and that's how the fight become a draw, that legendary fighter. I'm sorry I can't bring you more, yeah, as to why the fight started, but I can bring you the start, the story, and the end, and a shout out and thanks to Uncle Freddie Luke and all the family there in Kent who had actually watched that fight, and wishing you well and thinking of you, Uncle Freddie, and all the family had this moment in time. Yeah, so Bartley Gorman went on to worldwide notoriety, and Mark Ripley was growing in notoriety as well, but that notoriety would be cut short when his wife Celia, maiden name Celia James, I'm actually good friends with Celia's nephew Tom. Celia Ripley then, Mark's wife, walked into the pub. She'd been on the end of some mistreatments, an elevate relationship with her husband, and she blasted him to death. He was aged just 38 in the chest, in a pub in Croydon, just outside of London, and that would bring, sadly, premature ending to Mark Ripley's life. But I hope you've enjoyed the story, and I've got some more really good stuff coming for you. Please press the subscribe button and the bell. We've got Jimmy Stockings, a legendary Jimmy Stockings, his fight with Creamy Eastwood, and his fight with Johnny Love, and his fight with Henry Francis. It's all being told right there. It's coming up after this story. So please press that button, ring the bell. In the meantime,